There's plenty of valuable roles at a footy club. Today we talk about arguably one of the most important. Hello, I'm Simon Anderson. Welcome to AFL Riverina TV, a special edition this week covering sports trainers and their importance to player welfare and health. Joining me at the desk we have Fran Jones from Osborne and Zane Fraser from Ganmain Grong Grong Madong. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Okay.
Zane, we'll start with you. You were recently recognised with the New South Wales Community Sport Administrator Award. Firstly, congratulations. How much did that mean to you personally and for recognition of sports trainers as a group?
Just to be nominated for the award was a huge achievement in my eyes, and to actually win the award in Sydney was just unbelievable. I was very humbled by that, and the big thing about that was I was the only country representative and all the rest were city-based sports, and they were nearly all state-based sports, so I was pretty honoured to come from a small country town and win an amazing award that covered all sport in New South Wales.
Fran, you're the president of the Hume League Trainers Association. Tell us about the importance of forming associations and I guess what you see the priorities are of these groups.
Well, Simon, it's very important. It's a collective voice, and with that collective voice, we're able to be under the league and we're able to set standards. That was one of the things when the league was first formed in 30 years ago. The Hume Trainers Association was formed 30 years ago, and they recognised that there needed to be a standard set. So we've been able to actually improve that standard, and we've been able to organise training and education. So we feel it's very important, and it gives us a structure. And one of those things that we've found from other trainers that have gone to different leagues is that ring us and they say we've got no support, and that's one of the main things. I think that they're given that support through an association, so we think it's very valuable.
Zane, it takes a lot of people to run a football club. Trainers have one of the most important jobs on game day. Are clubs aware of the importance of the role of sports trainers?
Yes, they are. In the last few years, the AFL Riverina have come on board since our association was formed, and we have a lot of sports trainers in all the clubs, and all the coaches, players and the league realise the value of sports trainers and the job they do on game day and during the week with their footballers.
Tell us about one of the most, I guess, serious or concerning issues you faced at a footy ground.
Probably one of the most serious ones I had where a player was knocked out for 5 or 6 minutes. And trying to bring that player around, and not only that, it's what happens off field that people don't see. Is you have to reassure and comfort the wife, parents and the children. They're pretty distressed seeing that their father's injured, and you have to comfort them as well, and that's one of the jobs that as a sports trainer you have to do.
The AFL's had a big focus on head injuries in recent years. Fran, it's obviously a complicated issue, but what are the most important messages for players and for clubs to be educated in?
As you say, it is a really serious one, and as Zane's just said, he had a player that was obviously out for some time. The thing with concussion and head injuries is because people don't actually see that it's a broken limb or there's blood associated with it, they don't actually see it as being an injury. And it's one of those things that's really an ongoing learning process. There has been lots gone through the AFL. It's just very slowly filtering down to clubs and sports trainers. I believe there's a lot more education that we can do. And as far as players, parents go, there's still a lot of work to do there. I mean, people do now realise, coaches are much more on board now. In our club, it's up to the trainers to decide whether a player goes back on or not. Once upon a time, you know, it was the coaches. So we've come a long way, but we've got a lot longer to go. You know, in terms of children compared to adults, children are a lot different in how they're treated. They take longer to recover. There's a lot of information out there from a lot of the top people in this field that are saying that we need to take extra care with children, and getting that message across to parents can be very difficult sometimes. You know, when you ask people that they need to come back with a medical certificate before they can play, that sometimes causes concern for people. They think, oh no, we'll be right. But when players are honest with themselves, and you down the track, they'll often say to you after a heavy concussion that they didn't feel right for some weeks, some months afterwards. And if you take that scenario to a child, that's, you know, threefold. So we just really need a lot more education and a lot more information out there, and it needs to filter from the top down to the bottom. But we're getting there, and it's a lot better than it was.
I guess that's the thing out on the field, Zane, is there's this cultural change happening where it's not just toughness, you know, people getting a head knock and thinking I'm right to play on. It can be a serious issue. How important is it for the players to understand that out on the field?
It's pretty important. They don't realise when they're injured and have concussion, they don't realise themselves. They think they're all right, so it's up to the trainer to be able to talk to that player and advise that player. Sometimes it's hard, but you have to get him off the ground if you think he's concussed, and it's your role to convince him to come off.
And Simon, sometimes the player becomes a little bit aggressive and angry, and that's part of the concussion. So you're dealing with, you know, those issues, yeah.
Lots of range of emotions that you've got to deal with on the day.
Definitely a tough job. Now, as well as the management of serious injuries and issues like that, there's great value to the clubs with trainers being able to get players back in action as quick as possible. I guess how much reward is there in managing the players' recovery and getting them back on the paddock?
There's no greater reward than getting to a granny, and you know what it takes, don't we, Zane?
Yes, we do.
know from the pre-season right until the end of the year, and you know the list that you've had to manage. And often on that day of the grand final, you could probably nearly put a line on most days of the week through half of those players, because a lot of them are often carrying pretty major injuries and that sort of thing. So it's a real challenge just to, especially towards the end of the year, just keeping people on the track. And there's a lot of work involved in that. A lot of phone calls, a lot of massaging, a lot of treatments, a lot of referrals, a lot of talking to coaches. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy workload. And if you're lucky enough to get to the finals and that sort of thing, I would say the workload trebles.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
Now, Zane, who are some of the most impressive footballers you've worked with and why?
Probably the biggest one at our club would be David Logan. He's played 500 games for our club, just for the one club. I think that's a fantastic achievement. Shane Lennon and Luke Carroll for their professional on and off the field, and nowadays Daniel Rankin for his professional on and off the field, and also Guy Orton from Griffith. I've worked a lot with Guy. He's very professional on and off the field as well.
What about yourself, Fran?
Oh, look, I've had some great coaches. Graham Hart was one of the very professional coaches I've worked with, and Macca, Daniel McAllister. He'd be very sad if I didn't mention him. One of the greatest players, though, I think would have to be Hayden Gleeson. Hayden's 34 this year, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling you that, but he gives everything, and he's our ruckman and has been for quite some time, and he gives you everything. He doesn't leave anything left on the track, and he'll play with some major injuries, and he's just a very intelligent player. Wonderful. Yeah, I really admire him.
How much, I guess, respect and support do you get from the senior coaches and senior officials, and has that been something that's evolved over the years?
At my club, Osborne, we take selecting our coaches very, very seriously. So in terms of that, I've been very, very lucky with the professionalism of the coaches that we've had at Osborne, and they're fantastic to work with, and there's never been issues with you know, talking to coaches about players and what their needs and requirements are. So I'm not sure about other clubs, but I know at our club it's great, yeah.
What about yourself, Zane?
Yeah, I've got great respect for our coaches, and we talk all the time during the week about who's injured, who's not injured, and it's up to me in consultation with the coaches whether those players play on the weekend. So it's a two-way conversation, and we've been very lucky with our coaches over the years, that I've had that respect from all our coaches.
And Fran, tell us a little bit about, I guess, the serious incidents you've seen in your time as a sports trainer.
The most serious incident that I actually had was actually my son, and that's how I actually got into being a trainer. I was actually a nurse by trade, and my son was actually injured on the football field, and in those days we didn't have trainers and that for the juniors, and he was actually just you know, picked up and carried off, and our trainer at that stage, he was in taping up, and he actually met him halfway. And at this stage, I was still trying to get over the fence. He was actually concussed before he hit the ground, and I was trying to get over the fence. In those days, you did that. And when we got inside, we realised that the condition was quite serious. He actually, we went on to find out that he'd actually fractured 4 and 5, and he was actually having an asthmatic attack at that stage. So that was my serious injury, and one that, you know, we had a lot of people say to us, you know, are you going to sue? Are you going to do this? And I said, no, we're going to change it. We're going to make sure that every child that runs onto the field is going to be looked after properly, and I'm going to start with that at our club, and that's how we've built it. And now it's if your child plays in the Hume League, you've got a trainer standing on the edge of the ground. And most of them trained in spinal and oxygen. And I think that's a really great thing, and if you had a child in the Hume League, you'd be feeling a lot better about that. And he still plays footy today, and he's fine, and he's very, very lucky.
Because I guess when it comes down to it, it is just a game, isn't it? You know, the paramount thing is the safety of players, and having people like yourself around is helping that out.
Oh, there's nothing better than watching kids out there playing footy, smiles on their faces, win, lose or draw. That's why we go every week. It's the camaraderie, it's all the things that you get from a local area coming together and enjoying a good day out on the field. And it's just our role, I think, Zane, is to make sure that everybody goes home safely.
That's right.
Excellent, guys. We do a very good job. Thank you very much for joining us today on AFL Riverina TV, and hopefully a very safe and good season for the rest of it.
Thanks,
very much, Simon.
Cheers.